Welcome to Chautauqua People. I'm John V. My guest is Neal Moore, an explorer and writer. He was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, completed a 2-year Mormon mission trip shortly after high school. He volunteered with the Red Cross in South Africa. He graduated from the University of Utah, has lived in Hong Kong and Taiwan. Last December, he completed a 7,500-mile trip throughout the United States, 7,000 miles, which he covered by paddling a canoe. Neal, your story is remarkable. How did you become to be interested in world travel?
I started traveling from a young age. I lost my brother when I was 13 years old. He was my big brother, my hero, at age 16. And so my parents were busy and they would send me away. They would bundle me off to far-flung cousins around the world. So I had cousins in England, I had cousins in Hawaii, on the North Shore of Oahu. And so my parents wanted me to be with other kids. And so I started traveling. I definitely caught the bug and I haven't stopped.
How did you find out about Chautauqua?
I have a great friend out in Taipei, which is where I'm based, where I have been based for a number of years. And he has summered here at Chautauqua starting in 1980. And every time he would come back to Taipei following each summer, he would tell me all about the music and the thinkers and the people and the spirit of Chautauqua. And so when I worked out the route of the 22 Rivers journey from west coast to east, I knew immediately that Chautauqua would be on my map.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, you have had higher education, you graduated from the University of Utah. How did your interest in travel affect your higher education plans?
It absolutely interfered with continuing on. I was able to get my bachelor's in English literature from the University of Utah with a undeclared minor in film theory.
Mm-hmm.
The University of Utah, I like to say, is probably one of the worst film production schools in the country. However, it's one of the best for film theory because it's attached to the Sundance Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a number of international filmmakers coming in, and to be able to listen into their Q&As, to raise your hand and ask questions and meet these people, and to find out really the makings of what works story-wise, visual storytelling,
mm-hmm.
how that works and how that lives and breathes was amazing.
Can we take a look at a few pictures and see what you look like when you got started traveling as your mission?
Absolutely.
And then we'll maybe take a look at some South Africa. So here you are in the mission, and where are you at this point?
Let's see. So this is in South Africa, the Eastern Cape of South Africa, in early 1992. And here I'm in a game park called Mpongo Park, and of course we have the giraffe, my favorite animal, behind me there.
Mm-hmm. Do we have any other pictures from South Africa?
We do.
Let's take a look if we can.
Yeah. So. Part of the work that I was doing was where you take the name badge off and you just step out and try to help people. And so we volunteered at the Transkei State Hospital in
mm-hmm.
Mthatha.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, the homeland known as the Transkei. And these children were in the sick ward there. I believe it was ward number 8. And they were suffering from all sorts of afflictions, mainly TB, but also there was one of these children who had a gunshot wound on his back.
Oh.
And the interesting thing was we would come there, and our job was to play and to try to make them smile and to forget about some of the pain. But as it turns out, as each time that we would pull up in our car under a sneezewood tree, these kids would come and they would ring themselves around us, and they wanted to know, how are we keeping? How are things going by us? They were concerned about our welfare, and just phenomenal.
Amazing, amazing. Now, what were some of your other key experiences in South Africa?
Well, so for 2 years, I was a missionary between the years of Nelson Mandela's release from prison and his ascension to power. So we saw really. I had a first row ticket to history in the making. I was one of the first white people allowed by the National Party government and our church to move into a black township, Mdatsani Township in the old Siskai. And the beautiful thing was to be able to not just visit, but to move in and to feel of the people's spirit, to walk those roads by day and night. There were unofficial totals, but we believe that there were 2 million people inside that township. It's today's largest in South Africa. And there were definitely 2 whites. And to shake hands with everybody that you meet, African style, thumb around thumb, and for the old timers to take both hands with thumb around thumb and to really mean it, to connect, the physical touch, and it was something just remarkable.
Mm-hmm. Now, South Africa's a beautiful country, is it not?
Absolutely.
I think we have a landscape photo that was just stunning when we saw it earlier.
Yes, yes. So Cape Town lies at the southern tip, of course.
Is that where this was taken?
Correct. Yeah. This is just a couple of weeks ago, actually. So this is without a tint, and this is a sunset there at the very tip of Africa. Just beautiful.
Are all the sunsets like this?
It feels that way sometimes. All depends on the situation, of course. But they're more often than not, it's just the sunsets there are absolutely just breathtaking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you went from South Africa, and tell me how you found your way to East Asia.
I had a very good friend at the University of Utah, and he actually got married right before he graduated. He graduated just before me, and he asked me my advice because I had spent time around the world at that stage, but never East Asia. And he asked me, he said, we have the chance to go to Taiwan to become school teachers together for a whole year. And I said to him, my advice was, the best possible thing you can do, get away from her family, get away from your family and friends, and to step into a different culture, to immerse yourself into a far-flung culture. Mm-hmm. And you'll be able to really get to know each other. You'll learn language. You'll have a whale of a great time. But then they went and they started calling. We had the advent of Skype at that time. Mm-hmm. So my friend started calling on Skype at all sorts of hours back in Los Angeles, and he would say, "Where are you at now?" And then they would tell me about the adventures. Each weekend they would hop on a train and go to a different place. Mm-hmm. Long story short, they invited me to come for the second semester, and so I came in early 2000 and just fell in love with Taiwan, the beautiful island, mm-hmm. and I still call it home today.
And so, how long have you been in Taiwan?
I've been in Taiwan off and on for 20 years. Uh-huh. I've basically, for my adult life, I've used Taipei, Taiwan, and Cape Town, South Africa as springboards for further adventures on those continents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I understand you had some time in Hong Kong?
Correct, yes, I did. It's just a remarkable place in the world.
Right. Now you've traveled internationally then, these continent of Africa and the island off of Asia. Tell me about planning and executing this long trip throughout the United States. How long was the trip and how long was the planning? What motivated you?
Right. Part of the fun of any expedition is to unfurl the map, the physical map across the kitchen table, mm-hmm. also to unfurl the map in your mind, mm-hmm. to find your own point A and point B. Where is it that you want to start and where is it that you want to finish? And mm-hmm. so to work out this journey took about a year. And from the very beginning, the big question was, where would the big portages be?
Right.
Of course, I would have to portage over the Continental Divide.
And explain to our viewer, what is a portage?
Oh, right. So I like to refer to it as schlepping.
Okay.
So a portage for me, with the big canoe and with all my gear and traveling many miles in some cases, I've got some expedition wheels that go under the canoe that strap in. Then I have a fall harness that I place my limbs through, a 7/8 inch shipping rope that connects the fall harness to the canoe.
And here's the canoe with the wheels.
With these wheels right here, yeah. So these are proper expedition wheels from Canada, and you can see all the gear there. I'm lucky to fit in that canoe myself. And so basically, you throw everything inside the canoe, and you haul on the side of the road like a mule.
Okay, and how far did you have to do the portage process?
So the grand total, miles-wise and portage-wise, for this journey was 7,500 miles. 7,000 of which I was able to paddle. Most of the rivers and waterways connect, but there are places, far too many dams, and there are places where they don't. And so, and also you have to watch out for the extreme weather and especially wind. So when there's even a question mark, you get off the water and you start to haul. So 7,000 miles of paddling and about 500 miles in total of portaging.
It's hard. It's hard. So tell me, let's sort of review where you went. I wish we had a good world map or United States map of this, lined it out. But just talk me through.
Right, so 22, the journey was titled 22 Rivers. I'm from the West Coast, and I wanted to make my way sort of backwards, the wrong way, everybody told me across the country, from the West Coast to the East Coast. And so I started at Astoria, Oregon, the mouth of the Columbia River, the most dangerous waterway in the world, the Columbia River Bar, where the Pacific crashes up against, and that great river, the Columbia, pushes right back. So I came up the Columbia River. I paddled up the Snake River. I had quite a portage due north, hugging the Idaho border, the Idaho-Washington border, up to Lake Coeur d'Alene. I could paddle Lake Coeur d'Alene up to Lake Pend Oreille, where I found the mouth of the Clark Fork River, the border between Idaho and western Montana. Made my way up the Clark Fork as far as I could go to the Continental Divide. Then about a 60-mile portage coming over the divide. I think the elevation at McDonald Pass is right about 6,400 feet.
How many days was that portage?
That portage was probably close to a week. But I don't look at it as 60 miles. I don't look at it even as a hardship. I space it out. So you start with the town of Avon, because the town of Avon has the Avon Cafe.
Okay.
This wonderful greasy spoon. They have the rail link right there. These hardcore trains that pull the cargo from the regular trains on the eastern side of the divide and the western side of the divide. Those train operators, those engineers, stop outside the Avon Cafe. They stop and take their coffee and take their breakfast. So I was able to pitch my tent outside. We had some snow while I was there in late May. Then you pull to the town of Elliston. And the town of Elliston has the historic Spotted Dog Saloon.
No, serious place.
Which is a very serious place, yeah. And you have to bring cash when you go to a bar in Montana.
Okay.
As it turns out. But here, there's just characters every which way you look. I pitched my tent behind the bar, and the next day is the big incline. It turns out I was hit by a full, the entire day was a snow blast, the very end of May 2020. And it's charming to start with, but pretty soon you're frozen. But your body's in motion, and you take it inch by inch, step by step. I think I gained 1,200 feet in 6 miles.
Whoa.
At the very end there. But I made it to the top of the divide, found the camping spot with about a foot of snow. But the big idea, you have to time it, and for the portaging on the side of the highway, you don't want the wind, because the wind can blow the canoe out into traffic, and so you have to really be careful when you're strapped with the fall harness to the canoe. If you're hit or if the canoe is hit, it could be a bloody mess. So you have to take that seriously. The important thing was for me, time-wise, was the following day was bright sun and 0 wind. So making my way down into Helena, Montana to find the Missouri was just incredible. The Missouri River was about 2,100 miles from Helena down to where it dumps into the Mississippi at St. Louis. I rode the Mississippi down to New Orleans. The big idea, my only time constraint was following the seasons.
Got it.
So the second winter, I started in late winter, a very mild winter, fortunately, in the Pacific Northwest. The second winter, from December until January, was in the Gulf, as far south as I could physically go.
Right.
Connected the barrier islands off the coast of Mississippi and Alabama to Mobile Bay, came up the Mobile River, the Tombigbee, the Ten Tom, which is where to Pickwick Lake, where I found the Tennessee. I rode the Tennessee down through Kentucky Lake to Paducah. Then I slowly made my way up the Ohio River from Paducah, taking a couple of side jaunts. I wanted to see more of Kentucky, so I came up the Kentucky River and back down. Once I got to West Virginia, I came up the Great Canoe to make my way to the capital, Charleston, and then back down up to the source of the Ohio, which of course is the Allegheny and the Monongahela.
Right. Came
up the Allegheny, 190 miles to Warren, made my way over to the Chautauqua, to Jamestown, the Chautauqua, rode into Lake Chautauqua. Beautiful weather. I had a tailwind and directly into the institution.
Okay, so you stopped at the institution.
I did, for a few days actually. Really, really warm welcome. I knew Sid was going to be here, but he had some connections for me, and I made some new friends as well.
So was this during the season, after the season?
Just at the very tail end of the season, actually. So I came through. I was able to afford a room in the Athenaeum.
Ooh,
which was nice. Yeah, I told Sid I stayed at the Athenaeum. He said, "What?
Living in the tent of the Athenaeum."
All these years, I could never afford to stay there.
Yeah.
But it was actually really inexpensive off season.
Okay, and then what happens?
Then there's the second big portage is Old Portage Road, from right here over the hill to Westfield, to Barcelona Beach,
right,
to Lake Erie, and so Lake Erie turned into a topsy-turvy, incredibly dangerous situation. But that's part of the fun. Is you do as much homework as you can. You talk to locals. You listen to locals. Local knowledge will keep you alive on a journey like this. But that day, the waves sprung up. The wind was from the south, but the waves, when they came in, that seam across the lake, and when the waves came in, they came from the northwest, and they came up right beneath me. So that was a bit topsy-turvy. Eventually, took some days off the river. There's a small craft advisory that day and the following 2 days. Made my way to Buffalo, and then on the Niagara River, which is going about 10, 11 miles an hour. It's
That's
incredible.
dangerous, yeah.
You have to make sure you make that turn at North Tonawanda onto the Erie Canal. So then there was the Erie Canal, 350 miles. I was able to paddle half of the Erie Canal, roughly half, 170 miles to Syracuse. And then I had to Portage, the second half of the Erie Canal.
What happened?
From Syracuse to Waterford to meet the Hudson. They closed operations last year. I believe it was October 24th, so they closed down early. When they closed down, they drained half of the canal, and then on the Mohawk Riverside, from Troy down to Waterford, they simply take the equipment out of the river, and it turns into rapids. So, but it was great. It was just great. I was able to budget a month to really take my time. I was no rush whatsoever, and to really see and experience the Erie Canal from the towpath, from the historic towpath,
right,
where the mules and the horses used to pull the cargo. Today, it's a beautiful bicycle path. And making my way from village to village, and stepping in, taking days off, and just learning the history was incredible.
Now let's pause for just a minute, and we got to talk about your canoe a little more. And I wonder if Chuck can bring back that picture, and let's talk about the construction. We've got to do this before we finish the trip.
Okay.
And I know where the trip ends, and it's fantastic. So what is your canoe made of?
Right, so this canoe, it's an Old Town Penobscot. So
Okay.
the design goes back well over 100 years
Okay.
with Old Town. The material is known as Royal X. And so there was only one supplier of Royal X back in the 90s and then the early 2000s. They stopped supplying in right about 2010. So to find a Royal X canoe, you have to go into the Craigslist and sort of online and whatnot to find the older ones. But it's what's interesting about this canoe is it's 20 pounds lighter than fiberglass, but it can haul the same amount. This canoe is an expedition canoe, and it's designed to carry, I believe, 1,440 pounds
Goodness.
of gear. And then, but being 20 pounds lighter, it's only 60 pounds. So I can actually bring this up onto my leg and carry it.
So we're good to go.
Which is great, yeah.
Okay, let's finish the trip.
Okay.
We've given homage to the canoe. We've named it,
That's right.
and let's finish the trip.
Okay. All right. So the name of the canoe, the Shannon.
The Shannon.
The Shannon, and so she was christened after a now defunct pub in Taipei.
Got it.
Yeah, many years ago, where I first had the idea to paddle a canoe long distance. I finished up my tenure on the Erie Canal on the Mohawk at Waterford, just above Troy, which is just above Albany, and pitched my tent there at the confluence, and just sort of envisioned what it would feel like to put myself onto the historic Hudson. In any expedition, you have to have a carrot at the end, and my carrot was for really the first time of all of last year, the second year of the journey, a river that was going my way, to go with the current.
Yeah.
Was something incredible.
So you went down the Hudson. Stop
Yes.
any place significant along the way?
I did. I stopped in every town and village that I could. I budgeted my time to really spend time with locals, learn some of the local history. I stopped in the capital for a few days. I celebrated my 50th birthday there, and then continued on to Catskill, a wonderful family that invited me into their home for Thanksgiving. I spent about 5 days with them. Continued on down, got to see Saugerties, got to see, all sorts of towns.
West Point?
West Point, yes, West Point. And then on down to Piermont, and then from Piermont to the Riverdale Yacht Club.
Okay.
And from the Riverdale Yacht Club, the final day, the second to last day, the last day I was solo, down to Midtown Manhattan.
Got it. Now let's take a look at the key picture here at the end of the trip.
Okay.
And if Chuck can bring that up, tell us about what's going on here.
Yeah, so along my journey, I met a lot of great people.
Okay.
What was brilliant about the idea of the journey was you have this blend between nature and between humanity, between town and between country. And so to finish off, what I did was I invited all the paddlers that I met along the way. There were a number of them, and so they came from far and wide, from all across the country. Friends came to be there for the finale. I had about 35 friends from across the country, but also about 10 paddlers. And so we all came in, and the idea was to finish together. The stated end game for the journey was to paddle around the Statue of Liberty. And to be there with my friends I met along the way, to collectively come together. It sort of spoke to the whole idea of the journey, which was to explore how the riverways and the waterways connect, but also how we connect as humans.
And so that was a circling around.
Yes.
What were your emotions like at the time?
I was ecstatic to start. In the very end, my friends held back, and I pushed myself forward to the very beacon hand of the Statue of Liberty. And in my mind, I always said I also wanted the Statue of Liberty as the end game, to be able to see and have an understanding about where so many of us came through, the whole Anglo migration from Europe, going generations and generations back. But what was interesting was, as I approached, I was yelling. I was so excited I just couldn't stand it, until I saw the flame. And when I saw the fire, all of a sudden my face started to just changed, and I knew that I was going to blubber like a baby. There was a press boat right there with cameras pointed at my face, and so I was a bit embarrassed to actually cry. But what happened was, it was almost like, I don't know if this makes sense, but the journey was so long. It was nearly 2 years. And it felt like, while I was on the journey, it felt like I had always been on the journey, that it had always been there, and that it always would be there, that I would be on this journey for the rest of my life. And so the end was absolutely bittersweet. But to see that fire, all of a sudden, the journey came back to me in rapid flashes, almost Hollywood style, where at the end of our lives, where we see our lives, for better or for worse, we see it in a rapid flashes, almost like a highlight reel. And for me, I realized immediately that I had been a fool, because that fire, that illumination, had been with me from the very beginning. Reflected again in rapid flashes were the smiles, and were the waves, were the well wishes. I was able to chronicle people helping people right the way across this country. It took my breath away, and I absolutely wanted to cry because it was so beautiful.
Now, you took notes along the way?
I did.
Will this result in a book or something?
I'm hoping so. I've started the book, and I'm throwing it out there, and we'll see what happens with that.
That's great. Now, what happened, sort of a lower point, what happened with all of your gear after this trip?
Right.
You're
So
in New York. What did you do?
yeah. So normally on an expedition in Africa, an expedition here in the States, I'll finish up and I'll sell everything, and then I usually am dead broke at the end, and then I make my way back to East Asia. I had to step back into the teacher's role. This time around, this journey was historic. I didn't do it to be a first or to have my name associated with the Guinness Book of World Records or that sort of thing, but it turns out that this was the first time that we know of that an individual has come very specifically from the West Coast to the East Coast, solo, continuous, in an open canoe. And so the big idea was that their journey was so much, of course, so much larger than myself, but the canoe and the gear have turned into symbols. And so some great friends there, actually at Catskill, New York, took in my canoe to keep it indoors, and then I'll be taking it across the country here shortly to take part in the Missouri River Rendezvous later this month, and then it's going to be hung in a friend's his brew pub, and also a place where he carves and where he creates canoes and kayaks and stand-up paddleboards.
We are almost out of time. Let me ask you sort of one question at the end. If some young Chautauquan approached you and expressed an interest in doing a major expedition like yours, what would be your advice?
I would say that, from my experience, I would say that you can do anything. You can do anything in this world. You can go anywhere, and you can do and you can be anything that you want. And the fun part about it is that when you unfurl that map, you can find your very own point A and point B. And one of the tricks of the trade is when you push yourself out, and you let go, you detach from our clique of friends and from our everyday life, from what we know, from what's comfortable. This is the moment where you learn and where you grow. And you do it through interaction with other people, through truly listening and observing and taking part in the majesty of life.
Indeed. Would you recommend they do the trip then?
I would say so, yes.
Great. We are out of time. What else do we need to cover?
I think we might be good.
This is great.
Just very pleased to be here.
This has been great fun, and I hope you'll come back after the next trip or come back when the book is ready for share with others.
It's a deal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.